The third and fourth and fifth paragraphs, I believe you're still quoting there, right?
Yes.
And I would just ask if maybe you want to indent those or put a new quote.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That I did notice. Don't be shy about bringing these things up. I'm kind of thinking myself.
Oh, these are so minuscule. I feel like I'm almost wasting time.
No, you're not.
Nothing substantive. Substantively, I think it looks great. On page 3 of 5, at the footnote, there's ESHB, that's the house bill number. Is that okay to quote the house bill instead of to cite the slip law?
I don't know.
I've seen that, but then it's been codified. I mean, obviously it's 13 years old, so you can say
Yeah.
codified app. Is that what you're?
If you look at
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Oh,
Yeah,
I
it's got
see.
a statute in there. And then I just put the house bill down there. Because the bill could cover other areas other than the statute. Is that okay, or?
I'm absolutely fine with that. It was really a question of why the house bill instead of either the
Statute.
yeah.
Because then somebody can click on that link and see the changes.
It's perfect. Thank you.
Move on?
Yep, move on.
Okay. The next one is also an interpretive statement issued at the same time designed for patients to express the commission's view of its, at that time, new opioid prescribing. Same changes, I think. If you scroll down, I had the additions.
Yeah, you had.
Yeah, you'll see fewer changes here because I thought this interpretive statement, for some reason, had better language than the other one. So I used this language in that unmarked paragraph, first paragraph in the background. I'll delete from the rules.
I see. And on this one, you have actually, you did indent the.
Yes.
Does the WAC still refer to us? I know you're quoting there, but does that still refer to us as Medical Quality Assurance Commission as opposed to the Washington Medical Commission?
No,
I don't believe it does.
it's Washington Medical Commission. Yeah, we fixed it.
So I'll fix that too.
And that was on the previous one as well, but I assumed that it probably still said that.
Yeah, that's been updated.
Dr. Domino, does this look okay from a medical point of view?
Yes. Are we moving on? Sorry. Move on, I think.
I had a couple of questions that I'm just, if the clinicians are okay with it, I don't have a problem or issue with it. There are several places that it refers to high dose opioids, patients who are on high dose opioids. And I understand why there might be hesitation to specify an MED, but is that clear to the physicians of what patient would be on quote unquote high dose of opioids?
Do we define that in rural high dose? I can't remember now.
There is the 120 MED threshold that issue is clarified. I was just wondering.
I'm looking at the rules now.
From another point of view, I thought just leaving it undefined is better. That's how we do.
High dose means 90 milligrams, morphine equivalent dose or more per day.
And that's in rule, right?
Okay.
I mean, so one of the things is, I mean, you get the different CDC statements, you know, the new guidelines, plus you have people who are trying to go through this for years, and that's why there's been a lot of hesitancy within, you know, the field of pain medicine in particular, trying to find what a high dose is. And that's a rather low dose for a lot of patients who've been on opioids for a long time. So I don't mind leaving it that way and have someone look it up and do their own judgment about it.
All done with that? The next one is another 4-year review of a guideline. And that title's going to change to guidance document. Calling our guidelines guidance documents now. So I will change that. I don't believe I have any suggestions on this one, so I welcome any suggestions for this one. I think it's self-explanatory.
I don't have any suggestions.
Nothing?
Nothing. I've got nothing else on the rest of them. I have to point out a few things just to brag that I read it. That's
All right, the next one's a new one.
DEA
Wait.
waiver.
DEA waiver.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, it's
Yeah, this is
DEA.
the one you're.
oh, I'm sorry. Oh, this is an easy one. So this is a interpretive statement you issued back in 2018 and revised it in 2022, but just recently the Fed dropped the X waiver. So this is moot. It doesn't matter that we're stating that PAs can have an X waiver and prescribe buprenorphine or other medications without their supervising physician having the waiver. So therefore, because the feds has notified us that they've eliminated the X waiver, the interpretive statement is moved. So the suggestion is that you rescind this interpretive statement.
Good.
No changes to the language on the rescinded interpretive statement.
the signature block.
Okay. And the last one is brand new. So this addresses the issue of whether nitrous oxide, the use of nitrous oxide in a physician's office is minimal sedation and therefore exempt from the requirements of the office-based surgery rule, or whether it is not minimal sedation, and therefore a physician who uses nitrous oxide must comply with the requirements of the office-based surgery rule. I hope that wasn't too confusing. So this proposes to say, and this was suggested by Micah here, to have a statement making this really clear, because maybe you want to give the background. Or maybe it's not necessary about wisdom.
Well, I would say it's not only wisdom, just for your information, the Board of Osteopathic Medicine and Surgery has a guideline that clarifies this as well. In your office-based surgery rules, you have some language that talks about intranasal use of substance. And this interpretation statement makes it clear that that is not nitrous oxide. It's a different substance that I think Dr. Kaufman would probably say.
It was midazolam, it's benzodiazepine for sedation. And they don't get huge.
So that's one where we would be aligning ourselves with the Board of Osteopathic Medicine. There's also an ongoing discussion, I would say, with WISMA as well as the Board of Naturopathy, and they are looking at this issue as well. So ideally, this would be accompanied by a letter from the commission outlining what steps we've done to address office-based procedures and use of sedation, minimal or otherwise, and just advise them this is what we've done, maybe you should look at something similar. And so, Dr. Kaufman, you've actually seen the draft of that letter, so this is sort of an accompanying piece to that.
Yeah, I was gonna say nitrous oxide is in lower concentrations, it's moderate sedation at the minimum. Also sedation is a continuum. It goes from mild to moderate to deep to general anesthesia. It can go even with nitrous oxide to having someone anesthetized unsecured airway in that circumstance. So it's not minimal sedation.
And I believe some of WISMA is on, they want to try and address the group, I'm not sure.
She probably didn't hear you say that.
Thought I said it in line. So I believe some of WISMA is on, and they may want to make a comment.
Hi there, this is Billy Dickinson with the WISMA. Thanks for providing that context, Micah, and thanks for the opportunity to share our thoughts on this one. We shared this interpretive statement with our leadership, and there were some concerns with restricting a physician's ability to utilize nitrous in outpatient settings, especially when other provider types are utilizing nitrous oxide in office with certain safeguards in place. We think it's important to be able to do certain procedures outside the hospital to relieve pressure and provide care in the lowest cost setting. We are requesting that the committee hit pause on this interpretive statement so we can provide input and connect the commission with some physicians who have a different viewpoint. Really appreciate the opportunity to share our thoughts on this one.
Many of the providers who do that are dentists, and they are trained in pharmacology and in use of it. They also, when they have dental assistants helping, they also have people certified in ACLS, ability to resuscitate. These offices require a lot of things that you require in your office-based surgery things. It's just not something, and let me also say, anesthesia and nitrous oxides have a very bad reputation with our global warming. It is destroying the ozone layer. It's produced predominantly by fertilizer from cattle, but it sticks around for hundreds of years. It's over 300 times the amount of destruction of the ozone layer than even carbon dioxide, which we're all worried about. Yes, I think it accounts to, I don't know, about 5 or 10% of the ozone destruction. So unleashing a gas that not only can harm a patient, because not all patients have the same tolerance to it, especially when they're administered intranasal midazolam, or I don't know what else someone might administer intranasally, can result in a state of general anesthesia, or at least deep sedation, and without having adequate safeguards that you have in an office-based surgery setting is a problem. And then you're also unleashing potentially huge, large amount of gas that most anesthesiologists are saying we shouldn't be using.
So this, since this is a new document, how about we present this tomorrow and invite comments, but not have the commission adopt them. But sit on it and take comment on it.
I think that's consistent with your bylaws too. Because
Yeah.
we don't form here today.
We're assuming we'll have one tomorrow.
Well, I mean.
And also, we won't be adopting it since it's an interpretive statement. It has to go through the same review as a policy.
Yeah, you're right. I would recommend not sending it to the secretary's office after tomorrow, but bringing it back for another meeting, make that decision maybe in April. And I want to point out that the interpretive statement doesn't say you can't use it. It just says that because it's not minimal sedation, a person who does use it must comply with the Office of Surgery rules, which require accreditation and good record keeping and transfer protocol. And, what I think are necessary things for patient safety.
I agree as well. I also want to bring up that without those uses, without those safeguards, people, it is a drug of risk potentially that people have, and it's not a safe drug. To be honest, people have had, in old studies say like in dental offices that were not scavenged, and it's just in the air, scavenger sucks it out. So that's what we would use if we use it in the operating room. My operating room is on for most machines because we're not trying to use it because of the concern over the environment. But women had trouble with miscarriages. They had trouble getting pregnant. They also, people could develop neoplastic anemias as a result of that. And a substance use disorder had been a problem. So it's not the kind of, it's a drug, it's a significant drug, and it's not something you want unleashed. You want good safeguards. Okay, it can be safely used for moderate sedation, but it's definitely not minimal sedation. And then there's a whole picture of, gee, maybe we shouldn't be using it at all.
And last, we're going to this one. The last item on the agenda is a report from the high reliability work group. I just have a very short report. The work group met in January, and one of the issues that came up was it began with a discussion about how to incorporate questions from the CRP application form into letters of cooperation that investigators send to licensees in medical error cases. And it wound up as the work group had a number of questions about how are letters of cooperation constructed and what kinds of questions are asked and what kind of communications do investigators have with respondents. And the work group concluded that it would be a good idea to have a meeting with the investigators and have this discussion, this dialogue. That's taking place tomorrow at noon, from noon to 1 in this room, I believe. A dialogue for about an hour between all the investigators and the members of the HERO work group to talk about communication with our licensees, our respondents during investigation, and communication with RCMs during the investigation. So that's the topic of the meeting tomorrow. That's it.
That's all.
So previously, we talked about comparing the rules for opioid prescribing with the new CDC guidance. As part of that process, I engaged Dr. Turman to compare the two and come up with a report about what the differences make that, and they are fairly minimal, but I wanted to get your guidance from policy committee, because we had talked about establishing some sort of work group off the policy to look at it and make recommendations to the commission. I just need to know what your preference would be. I guess, Heather, I don't know if you have anything.
Yeah, I mean, you can discuss it, but we can't really make a decision today, yeah.
Okay. So I guess the question is, what is your preference?
I would always say if they're minimal, could it just be brought back to policy for the discussion rather than, I mean, if they're extensive, I think you need a work group related to it, but if unless you think they're, I don't know what they are specific.
So our rule set doesn't address the issue of under 18s and sickle cell. It also differs slightly in that the CDC guidance talks about if you have a miss or a positive drug screen, to not fire them from your practice, instead try to keep them and get them compliant. We don't really talk about that at all, and I can't remember if we talked about using biological specimens. And that's really because when we did the rules, part of the issue was there was a concern that people were ordering the most expensive tests out there, testing for every single thing that wasn't really indicated. And so possibly putting some limits on there to see like it might be a revenue stream. Certainly, there's obviously some allegations of routing to certain labs and kickbacks to speakers. I think they called them dividends at that time to try to wait for the start law violations. But we don't, because of those issues, we didn't really address in the rule set. So if we wanted to encourage, like we have a legacy section that's friendly to patients and attempts to get them care. You may want to consider adding on to that to incorporate what the CDC guidance suggests with positive drug screens. So those are the three issues that
I don't know, it doesn't seem, I mean, you could find a work group, but I just wonder if it could just be discussed in policy and then, you know, if there's a lot of discussion. I mean, a lot of times maybe it takes a little time, but if there's a lot of discussion at the commission meeting, you know, you can bring this up. Be there tomorrow, but you know, you can get a feel for how much discussion it is. I think it could be dealt with here.
Okay, well, I'll just say bring it. I'll see if we get that.
That's a virtual meeting, so that'll be.
Perfect.
I'm finished.
Adjourn.
Easy.